Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Dustin Kircher. I got my partner here, Ben Dreicer, and we're with MHP Nation. Thanks for tuning in on our show this week. We got an awesome guest. I'm excited to talk with him and learn about his experience because he's got an awesome background. We have Julio Jaramillo, who is the owner and operator of Evergreen Communities that was started back in 1999. So he's been in this for a while, and I'm pretty sure he's got some pretty cool stories to listen to. But anyways, he owns and operates manufactured housing and RV communities. And as of today, he operates in 27 communities over 12 states and over 4,000 home sites, which is, I mean, that's impressive. So without further ado, Julio, thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys, and thanks for doing this podcast and sharing the knowledge out there. I enjoy sharing our story and helping the new generation coming into this asset class. So yes, this will be fun.
Nice. Well, you have an impressive background and you've been doing this for a long time. So we're excited to learn from you and all our listeners, to listen to somebody that's got so much experience and for that long, right? You hear people that have jumped in for maybe 5, 10 years and they're gaining in home sites, but you've been doing this for since 1999. So that's impressive.
Yeah, actually, even not impressive, but before I started Evergreen, I was in the business for 11 years before that. So I've been in
Oh,
the business 36, roughly 36 years now. Uh,
oh, wow.
I started while I was at UCLA, and I must have been 56. So yeah, I was 20 years old, and and just sort of stumbled into this industry. And it's been a great run. Learned a lot. The people think, oh my God, how am I going to build this? I don't have this kind of experience. None of this is rocket science. None of this is, I studied it before UCLA at Caltech and was really good in math and did
Mm,
differential equations, and I was aerospace engineering major. And
okay.
you don't need any of that shit. So
Yeah.
pardon my language. So it's just all sort of being methodical, and what we've done. It's always been taking care of your residents, taking care of your investors, obviously your lenders, and just going through every situation. You're going to stumble on so many different scenarios, and like you said, in,
Mhm.
in these 36 years we've had everything. It's been hit by hurricanes, wiped out 100 homes.
Jeez.
We've had E. coli in one of our well waters at our Early Park, and we'll get into different stories and all this. We've had theft. We've had unfortunate, tenant in one of our communities left her 3 young kids to go and dance, if you know what I mean, for her
Mm.
rent, and and the kids knocked over a heater she left with her blanket, and the place went up,
Oh,
and yeah, it was really sad, and one of those things.
wow.
Yeah, one of those things you carry with you. But yeah, so many different situations, and we'll get into it. But we can start with you. You let me know. Do you want me to tell you how I got into business, or what's?
Yeah, I would love to know how you got in business and where are you based out of?
Oh, great. Yeah, good question. So I'm in LA, Burbank, California.
Oh,
I've
you're cool.
Yeah, I
Me too.
grew up here. I've been some of the people may have seen me on LinkedIn. I'm fighting rent control over here with some of the boneheads that don't understand
Yeah.
how economics work. Uh, but no. So I've grown up in Burbank. Loved it. I was born. So first of all, I was born in Colombia, South America. So I'm
Okay.
bilingual. I actually in 2 weeks I'm leaving to Colombia to do with like 7 of my buddies, several of which are now investors, and we're going to go do a bike race. We go to Colombia all the time. I have a condo
Nice.
there now. It's an awesome country. Medellin, used to be the drug capital of the world, and now it's just a vibrant, awesome city. I think it's like number 3 or 4 on where Americans want to retire.
Mm.
It's just an amazing place. So was born there, came to the States, when I was young, 2 years old, all legally. My dad went through the system, and we came here. We're Reaganites. My dad was always, "Oh, you're in the best country in the world, and you better not screw it up."
Yeah.
So we've always been free market, small government, just proud of this country and not beating up on it and the people want to tear it down and talk about burning the flag and that. I mean, we'd be outraged. So,
Yeah.
so that was sort of our background. Then went to school here in Burbank, and it was always loved math. I mean, just always I have a photographic memory for numbers. So, but like a perfect math score on my SAT, and got a
Oh, wow.
scholarship.
Nice.
Yeah, yeah, got a scholarship to Caltech, and was going to study aerospace engineering. And here in Burbank, Lockheed was here where they designed the stealth fighter and the SR-71. And I was like, oh, I'm going to be building the next B-2 bomber. And then decided I didn't like the experience at Caltech, transferred to UCLA, and picked up an accounting job there in the placement center at the Carlyle Group here, not the hedge fund, but this is, and some people on other podcasts may have heard part of this story, but and worked for a guy named Ron Singer, one of the pioneers in this industry. Rest his soul, he just passed about less than a year ago, and he taught me a lot of stuff, and I got to learn from the ground up, inputting bills and utility bills and mortgages, and what the hell is this mobile? What is this trailer park crap? And he taught me how, the beauty of it, and the things that some people coming into the industry want to exploit, and they, and you got to be careful on that, because some of them are like, oh, these people can't move their homes, and it's a captive audience, and we can jam them with the rent and this and that, and then you get rent control, and you get on the news, and you get the slumlords of the industry. And so that's not us. We're always like, hey, this is your bread and butter. These are the people you got to take care of. These are the ones that are living check to check. They're on Social Security, or they're working at the Walmart, or the Taco Bell, and you get them to rent, and you do your things methodically, but you put money back into the property, and these things grow, if you do it right. If you try to do it quick and want in and out, then some people have done that, and that's just not our way. So anyway, and I'll digress a lot, but
That's fine. We love it. That's why I said earlier, is like, just wherever the conversation goes, I know we're going to get knowledge from it. So
yeah. And feel free to stop me, or let me ask you about that. And then so through my experience with Ron, became controller, and then CFO, and director of acquisitions. And we had gotten his portfolio to a good level. We were 99% occupied. Nobody knew about this niche asset class, So we were buying parks at 10, 11, 12 cap rates. And then, in 99 went on my own. That was right in the .com boom, and everybody was, pets.com, and everything was coming out. AOL was the big internet. And started Evergreen, and then it was just bought one property at a time, raised some money, and then bought the next property, and then did it all over again. And it's all been, we haven't had to use institutional investments. It's all been family, friends, word of mouth.
Okay.
And just taking care of, delivering, setting reasonable projections, and then meeting them or beating them, and doing the right things on that. So we've had a good run. We still buy. We actually just closed on a deal last week with the joint venture, and I'll get into some of those later. And then and we're under contract right now, and another one in North Carolina, that both of them were seller financing. And so we've been able to, still with good relationships and people knowing, hey, these guys aren't going to come in and retrade me. They're not going to come in and give me some fictitious beat down of the price, because they say, oh yeah, I'm gonna outbid so I can win it, and then I'm going to beat you down. We're like, we don't have to do that. If we buy one or two deals a year, and we keep the depreciation clock going, because you eventually run out of it, then so we're still doing that. We have a great team, and so knock on wood, we're in a good sweet spot right now. And I'll pause and let you get into some questions, but yeah.
And so obviously 36 years, like you mentioned, a lot gone through. And now you have your team, you're still buying. What's your team look like today now? Because
Yeah, no,
you got a lot of communities that you're, 4,000 spaces, that's a lot to manage. So what's your team look like?
yeah, no, that's a good point. And we're just on the cusp of about with this last acquisition and this next one about 4,500 sites, just so you get
Nice.
a scope. And that's another thing I want to, and to give some of the new people and all that. Everyone they used to do this like how many sites, Hometown America and these guys and that guys and ELS and all the different operators, and everyone was just like a race to how many sites you can get and pound your chest. I got 10,000 sites, and I was like, yeah, it's all bullshit and it's all ego. It's
Yeah.
if you have a good portfolio, you keep your arms around it, and you just know what's going on with it, and makes them fair. We'll get into how we structure with our investors. We get our fair shake and they get their fair reward. And then you don't need 10, 15, 20,000, and then you're still working for somebody else and
Mm.
some hedge fund and they're squeezing the hell out of you. And so we're very lean. And sometimes, I mean, I close books and do stuff that I shouldn't be doing, but we've brought on a few people, but here in LA, we have five of us, which isn't a lot. Mostly me, our CFO, and like an accounting team, and then we have three regionals for the Midwest, the Northeast, and Florida, in the Southeast, and then we have employees at each of the properties. So manager,
Yep.
maintenance, usually, sometimes depending on the size of the property, and assistant maintenance, but we're very hands-on. We're on Manage America, so we check their delinquencies all the time. We have we email back and forth, approve. I just finished with our CFO approving some tree trimming we got to do at a property, and we look at it. Oh, send us the pictures, like, because some managers are going to tell you, oh yeah, this tenant's bugging me, they want their tree down, and then we find out, oh, they want their tree down because they're sick of raking leaves. It's like,
Yeah.
we're not going to spend $5,000 or $3,000 to remove a tree because you're lazy. So we use a lot of technology. Okay, send us the pictures, and again, it's nothing. We're dinosaurs compared to what some other people probably use, but we have them take pictures, send an estimate. We look at, oh yeah, that tree's clearly dead. It's going to fall on that house. Let's remove it. And oh no, this one's still green. And why does that need to come down? Well, it's hollow on the inside and it may come down in a storm. But well, let's keep an eye on it. And so we're very still hands on, and we like to self manage. I'm not knocking some of the third party management companies out there. And again, our formula isn't for everybody. Some people may come and say, hey, I got this pot of money, I got this fund, and I got to deploy it, and I'm going to hire Shapiro or some other third property man, and that they're great, that's fine. But we've always just felt we need to see it, we need to operate it, we need to know what's going on with it. It's our skin in the game, and we're representing our investors, many of which are friends, family, and referrals that
Mhm.
that we want to stay on top of. So yeah, so between all the park employees, community employees, and us, we're maybe 75 to 100 employees,
Wow.
for
Yeah.
those 4,000 sites. And we're lucky. Some of them we bought. Most of our properties are over 100 sites. Uh, we have one or two that are like 78, 80.
Hmm.
We haven't had to go down into the 30 spacers, and some of the ones, and I get it. Some people are like, hey, that's all I can find. Yeah. So that's a tough route to do, and managing, because you got to get to all these properties, and you still got to do a tax return for each one, and K1s and everything else.
Yeah.
So obviously the bigger ones give you that economy of scale
Yep.
that you can use for hiring a manager and everything. So luckily, most of our average size is 150 to 200, and that's been a good sweet
Nice.
spot for us.
Are you
Yeah.
still handling acquisitions and underwriting and all that?
Yeah, believe it or not, we just we've looked at, hey, will you hire this person and you do this, and then we end up like, well, then you got to manage that person and check them, and if they're going to do it right. And so we've sort of just a lot of times ended up, okay, let's just do it ourselves. But now we've gone into this JV model, which I'll tell you about in a bit.
Okay.
But yeah, we look at everything. We do a model. I go out and see and walk and go through the property, and I'll tell some of the newbies how we look at a property, and again, and none of this is like, oh man, you got all this knowledge, and no, I learned it from Ron Singer, and somebody else showed me, and trial and error, and but we go out and have an acquisition punch list and a system, but only having to buy one or two nice, good 200 space communities a year makes that manageable without a whole acquisition team, and then our fear is you get that and you're like, oh shit, we got to buy just to pay this guy's or gal's salary, and we're buying stuff we don't want, and so that's one of our mantras. I'll get my investors. I just rode with a bunch of guys this morning. We do a lot of cycling. We were up at Griffith Park and the Hollywood sign, and they're like, hey, when's the next deal? I'm like, well, I got this one in North Carolina, but we're only closing if it makes sense for all of us, because we put our money in it too.
Mm-hmm.
And we're not doing it just so we can get a fee off you guys, and so that's been a good blend, so they know, hey, we're in bed together.
Yep. Nice.
Yeah.
That reputation that you built and your efficiency, because really back at the house is less than 10 people. And then everybody else are on-site employees. So you've done an incredible job creating incredible systems to manage that many parks and that many people. And like you said, your ability to get these bigger parks that are 150 to 200 on average, given your portfolio, it's a very impressive. And how you came, to your investors and making sure that they're taken care of, and you're only doing deals that you have skin in the game. And you've built a reputation now that it sounds like money is chasing you rather than you having to go out there and chase the money, which brings the next question. Can you talk about how you structured deals in the past and now how you're structuring it with JV partners and how kind of that looks? And
Sure. No, those are great questions. And before I get into a lot of that, and we're not saying we're the masterminds of this. Our reporting to our investors is very simple. We don't have to give them all these metrics and all that. We send them out, they get their quarterly checks with it. We do it quarterly for one, so that eliminates it every month, all that processing. We send them quarterly checks. Annually they get financial statements, a newsletter where we update them. Hey, here's what's going on. Here's what we've done. And here's our projection for next year. Or, your distribution rate's going to go up from X to X or XY. And then, and then they get their K1. And so it's, we keep it simple, to some, sophisticated, hey, I invested with Blackstone and I want this, and that. And I'm going to say, well, sorry, that's not us. We want to spend our time on the property, not servicing some pain in the ass investor. And I want to know, well, why was vacancy, why was this guy delinquent last week? And I'm like, I don't need to explain it to you. I need to work on it with my manager.
Yeah.
We know what we're doing. So anyway, I just wanted to preempt this answer with we use a very simple old school. We keep trying to update and get it with the, I've looked at an investor software, and by the time I figured out everything that had to go in it and make it all sophisticated, I was like, I need that time spent, filling sites and making this thing deliver. So that was one thing. But when we started, and we do these very, very similar now, and then I'll get into the JV tranche, but we basically set up our LLCs where they're all single purpose entities. They're not cross collateralized. And we tell the investors, and I had an investor who wanted to come in on a deal earlier, and they're like, well, do we get our money first and this and that? And how's a waterfall work? And we're like, you know what, this is how we've done it. And our investors have been happy. And we do 70% to the money, the investors come in, and 30% to me and our team, to Evergreen, to the managing member. And I explained to him, I said, and we carve up our 30. We have, our key people get some equity in there. If we have a JV, it's that same 30% we carve up. I also tell them we also put in capital now, and this is hard for some of the new people because I couldn't in my first deals, but we also put in capital. So we're also some of the money part as well. So, so we're right along with you. And we only get paid when you get paid, is what I tell them. And on top of that, we don't charge an acquisition fee or all these. We don't fee these things to death. We do a management fee to cover the management. And then we have this equity split. So like we bought a deal just recently where it's a lease up, the rents were really low, and it's like, and it's starting at like a 5% return. And so the and that's sort of it. We don't really do a preferred, but that's like our floor. So we tell our guys, look, if there's only enough cash flow to get the money people, your 5%, you're going to get that, and we'll defer ours. But once the cash flow gets up, we're going to get paid because we're and people ask me, well, what do I tell my investors? How am I justifying that? I'm telling them, well, I got to tell you, I'm like, first, we're bringing you the deal. So investor, cash investor over here, we're bringing you the deal. You would have never seen this. It's not on something on the internet, or you're not buying into a REIT or anything else. I'm like, we're bringing you the deal. We're going on the loan for all the carve outs where we don't do any. Luckily, at this point, we haven't had to do personal guarantees, but we have in the past. And actually, I digress there. This last deal in North Carolina, the seller, they're carrying like a $10 million seller finance note, and they wanted to know, well, we want to know you have some skin in the game. So I had to sign a $500,000 personal guarantee. And okay, it's not big, but we tell them, so we're bringing you the deal. We're signing on the loan. If it's a finance, Freddie, Fannie, CMBS, we're going on the carve outs. When shit hits the fan, you're coming to us, not you. We're on top of the property daily. Stuff happens on the weekend, freeze outs, they're calling us. These guys are just sitting back getting a check. And then I also remind them, and we have a 21st mortgage line of credit to bring in homes that we also have to personally backstop. Those that know the 21st program, we use that. We don't charge them a nickel. Oh, we repaved the road, we're going to charge you this development fee or this capital improvement fee or this. It's all we're in there hand in hand, and they've done great. I mean, again, long term, and what these people have to remember is you gotta set it up and look long term. And I have a deal now we've had 24 years, and the distribution rate to the investors is like 26%. They've gotten back 5x plus. There's another 8 to 10x of equity built in the property. I mean, these things, they're just wondering like, shit, we got to buy more because now I've run out of depreciation. So it's that long-term play, and that's how we've set them up, and our investors get it now, and it's more of explaining it to them, tell them, you need us getting paid and focused on the property, and not waiting to pay you guys everything. And then we're like, how do we pay for our office and our staff and and the people that are looking after the systems and the delinquencies and the occupancy and bringing in homes and making sure we're marketing right. And so they understand that, we have to get paid alongside them. So that's one of our structures. And then I'll jump into the JV thing. So, probably 6-7 years ago, it was getting hard to find deals, and we don't have an acquisition guy making all the annoying phone calls that everybody receives, and so a broker / just someone in the industry brought us a deal and said, hey, look at this deal, I like it, and I wouldn't mind, and we educated them, like, I wouldn't mind having some ownership in this. I don't want to just get paid my brokerage fee, I'm done, I'm gone, and that's it. And so we worked out a deal to manage it, to bring in capital to them and with them, and to manage it alongside them and share in the equity. And again, our 30% ownership of the deal was carved up with them. And now we've probably done our last 10 to 12 deals with now our 4th different partner. And they've been great. We call it 1 + 1 is 3. If I would have never seen that deal, so I'd have 100% of 0 if I didn't share with them. and
Yep.
and they wouldn't be able to buy that deal, whether it's they don't have the investor capital, they don't have the know-how, or they don't have the management team and expertise, the regionals out there, they don't have the 21st mortgage set up and the connections on how am I going to pay for all these homes to come in, and they may not have the relationships with the banks. Oh, how am I going to get Fannie to Freddie or these guys to know, oh, okay, this is someone I'm going to give them preferred pricing because I know it's a repeat borrower and we know Evergreen, and they have the liquidity and they have the net worth so we've been able to partner with several people like that, and we love it because it's one other set of eyes for us out, and they're usually out near the property. Like our North Carolina guy, we're now in our third deal in North Carolina, and he's out there hustling, and we had him start as a manager so he can learn. We want you to learn the daily grind of what goes into a mobile home park, and he's buying homes, helping us flip them, and we're giving them the guidance and we're giving them the capital, and so that's been a new structure that we've sort of adjusted to that we've been really pleased with.
Nice. Yeah. It's a great way to, like you said, get deals with not having an actual like acquisition team hitting the phones or, doing all that stuff. But there's a lot of people looking for deals that maybe don't have the experience with managing it. And so bringing it to you guys with all the experience you guys have is a no brainer, basically.
Yeah. So. And being fair. I mean, I think if any one of the partners that we're in, and some of them may even see this and be like, hey, Julio has never screwed us over or our team, and I just mentioned me, but our whole our CFO, our accounting people, they help, and we have a gal who does sales and posts our homes on all the different websites, and they get all of that. They're like, they've never screwed me over, and they've never screwed us over. That you realize it's like, hey, you see these partnerships, people fight and get and over greed, over stupidity, over their own self-serving wants, rather than, hey, what's the best for this asset, and how's it going to benefit all of us, including the residents, the stakeholders. I call it, it's like the pie gets bigger and everybody benefits. Okay, we got rising rents. All right, they're gonna get a new playground, or the roads are kept up nice, and this thing was, mom and pop couldn't manage it or didn't have the capital. It was 70% occupied. Now it's 100% occupied, and everyone's home equity has gone up. We've cleaned the roads. I saw someone on LinkedIn yesterday talked about, they had this park that was just a disaster, and they came in, they raised the rents, but they paved the roads and brought in new homes, and now everybody's home is worth, they're reselling for 100,000 plus when they were barely getting 5 to 10K tear downs before. So you got to look at it that way, and not the greed factor of, okay, how do I put in a $200 rent increase and I'm going to jack this and turn it and flip it. And it's like, okay, good for you.
Well, you're creating communities, right? So it's different than someone that looks as just like a mobile home park. You're creating a mobile home community or manufactured community where people are happy to live there, and you show ownership that you're showing the ownership side that you appreciate everybody in that community.
Yeah. And it's not just, oh, Julio's such a great guy, he's so benevolent. It's like, I've seen it's the best for everyone, for our investors, for us, for the longer stability, and the better you have the property and the more demand you get into it. I just still don't get and maybe I'm glad for it, because most of our best communities were bought from slumlords, idiots who were chasing pennies. And I learned that from Ron Singer. Like, you're stepping over $1 to pick up a nickel. You're like, oh, I can save this and not repaint my community center or something, and it looks in it flaking paint and lead based this, and you're like, dude, do that up nice. And there's some great operators that I'll give kudos to in the industry, like Scott Roberts. I mean, you go and he develops properties and just sets the standard. I mean, just like badass. And then they make money on home sales, I'm sure, and they get a good strong market rent in great areas. And like they have community in Austin, for instance, and the city's happy as shit. Oh, you brought us some good affordable housing. the tenants, you see Hispanics and people in there that in that market that would have never been able to buy a home. They're like, fuck, I have a home, and they have a bitchin' water park, and I have, so you can do all this shit and still make money for, and that's not a bad thing. I know everyone's gonna think, oh my God, you're an evil landlord, you made money. It's like, no, we're not in the Soviet Union or Venezuela. I'm so anti-socialism and all that, people know it, but it's like you got to make money because that spreads and helps everybody. Otherwise, then you know what are you gonna do? You're not running a homeless camp. You can't give the rent away. You know.
Yeah.
And then speaking about the communities, park-owned homes versus tenant-owned homes, are you always converting? Do you like park-owned? What's your overall opinion?
Yeah, no, great question. And again, that over the 25-year span has changed so much. Before it'd be like, no, only tenant-owned homes, and dealers would be like, oh, I want, you have a vacancy, let me bring a home in, I'm going to make 30, 40, 50 grand off of this sale from Clayton, or even before Clayton was in the game. And then, you know, so much of that has changed. And now we have, we bought a community in Biloxi, Mississippi a couple of years ago, and it's 200 spaces. 100 of them were notes. Were park-owned homes that were on notes, and again, it was a very Hispanic-based community, and the seller managed it decent. It was in decent shape, but it just needed that. So we went in there, tightened up the rules, and said, "Hey guys, you can't store ice chest and junk and crap on your porch. It's just not how we do it. We want you looking sharp, and you're going to be proud of your community." And we have zero delinquency there, zero vacancy, and there's 100 homes, and we're converting them to purchase. Like all of us in the industry, you want that pride of ownership. You want somebody in there, hey, I can own this home. And again, it's that win-win. We're saying, look, you can rent it for us for the next 20, 30 years, and you're going to be paying $1,200, $1,300, $1,400, whatever that rent keeps going up to, or you can buy it from us for maybe $50, $100 cheaper than you can rent it. And in 10 years or 12 years or 15 years, whatever your amortization works out, you're going to own it. And then you're just going to be paying lot rent, and that's your home. And then, you know, and we've seen some, we have a beautiful community in Lima, Ohio. I mean, it's on our website. It's just all double wide, stellar. And we never had to rent homes there. And we had some vacancies, and there was no dealer. And we're like, we brought in homes, and they're like, these seniors just wanted to rent. And we rented 13 homes there. And we eventually, they're like, oh, I like this, and I like the community. And 2 years in, they went and got their own financing. Several of them, we carried paper, and they purchased them. Now we're down to like 2 homes there that are rental, and the rest are homeowner owns. And the community's so nice, and we've done this at other ones we've cleaned up, where like they bought it for us for, call it $50,000, and then 2 years later we're approving a resale. It's like, oh wait, shit, we sold them that home, and they're like, and it's selling for 70. It's like, damn, did we sell it too low? You know, but so, and again, that it's a great win for us. When somebody owns their home, we're no longer carrying the paper. They take care of it, beautifying the hell out of it, and they made some money a couple years later selling it to somebody else. So yeah, we get a lot of this deal we just bought in Ohio with a partner, has 42 rental homes, and the seller, great guy, but he's in North Carolina, and people have to remember, so many people are at different stages of their lives, and they have, you know, this seller has no debt on this thing, so he's bringing in whatever 50, 60, 70,000 a month, and they're like, why do I need to bring in new homes? I got 90 vacancies, but I'm making 50,000 a month, and my expenses are 20, and I got 30,000 a month, and it's me and my wife, and we like to go eat at you know, the country restaurant, diner. So you take those things into play, and then you say, all right, let me see which ones I can convert to a sale, which ones I may have to rent and do a blend. And what we bring in homes, and we try to sell them, but we always tell our manager, you know, level A is you sell this thing for cash, and then we redeploy that into more homes. You know, level B is we have to carry paper, so we don't get all the cash out of it, but it's still a sale, and someone got, you know, level C is, oh, it's a great tenant, but they only want to rent it. and then you got to go with people's lifestyles. But if you run a good park and you take care of it, and you're going to get a huge percentage of people going to start living there, and they're going to start looking around, and they're going to be like, oh, these guys are reasonable. They're not doing huge rent increases. They're doing reasonable ones, and they're taking care of the park, and I'm paying rent here. And we'll go back and say, your lease is up. Do you want to buy it? And there's been a few where we're like, there's such a demand for people to buy them. We're like, we'd love to rent for you for life, but we can't. Your home's in demand, and we love to sell it to you. But if not, we're going to have to not renew your lease, because we want to sell these. We're not in the apartment business of taking care of your home and your roof and all of that. We want you to be in charge of that, and you to build the equity, and you to have the home. So yeah, it's been a blend, and we've all had to adjust. I think that's the key in this business is you gotta adjust. You gotta keep reinventing yourself. You don't over leverage yourself and get overextended and promises, I'm going to give you this and that 20% returns out of the box. And you're like, yeah, really? You're going to be underwater in the next 2 years. So,
yeah. So, with everything, all the different parks and everything gone through, what would you say has been the biggest challenge in the mobile home park space?
You know what? I mean, one of them is finding good people and managers. And again, that's another Ron Singer relic. He'd always tell me, your manager makes or breaks your property. I mean, we've seen that, and then like, oh, this manager isn't showing up, and we do unannounced visits and this and that. And it's a great property. It's like, why isn't this thing full? Why isn't this thing humming? And then you get a great manager in there, and all of a sudden you're renting and leasing sites, and there's people in line for it. And you're like, so that on-site manager makes a huge difference. And again, you don't want to nickel and dime them. Sometimes you got to pay them a little more, or like we added a 401k many years ago. We match up to 5%, 100% up to 5%. We encourage them. This is free money. Put this in the market, or we're giving you 100% return day one, up to 5%. So we try to encourage, teach them, take care of them. And then but it's hard. I mean, as you guys know, some people don't want to work, or some people want, I want to be remote. Like, no, you're in a mobile home park, you got to be here. And it's a tough job. I mean, we've seen it, and my CFO and I will talk and be like, yeah, you be in the grind, coming in every day. You guys raise my effing rent again, or this my neighbor's cat's pooping on my yard, or this dog, or this guy's flying a Confederate flag, and this guy's this supporter. I mean, there's so many stupid little things. So it's a tough job to be a manager. And as the investment guy, you guys got to realize and say, hey, put yourself in their shoes for a minute. When we go out to see them, we walk the property with them. We take them to lunch. We let them pay. Hey, what's your best restaurant? What do you want to eat today? Oh, let's go here. I've been wanting to try it. Okay. We buy them lunch. If the park looks good, we right on, we give them a site visit bonus, even $400 or $500, $1,000, whatever, goes a long way in these people's life. So back to the question, but yeah, people is a hard thing, obviously, finding them, and, some of the regulations, some of the stuff out of your control, where you get, we have a property in Florida where they're saying, we have water infiltration, and the county doesn't even tell us how they're computing it. How do you know it's coming from our property? And this and that, and they're monopolies. It's a government bureaucracy monopoly. And again, that's why it just irks me that people want more and bigger government. I'm like, you want more of this? You want more of the DMV or the post office? None of that works. So dealing with that and regulation and the rent controls. We're in New York. We have a couple of communities in New York, and an operator went in there many years ago and just drove in a $200 rent increase. And it's like, are you serious? And and I've said that in one of the George Allen, who's a pioneer of this business. I spoke at one of his conferences, and it's like, I don't care if you're at the market's $500 and you buy this park at $300. Those people live in check to check, and their budget, they've already factored into their life a $300 rent. You can't hit them with $200 rent overnight. It's just it's gonna piss off everybody. It's going to be on the news, and that's what happened there. And then they put in rent control, and now they have a 3% fixed rent control. And it's like, okay, well, that's great when inflation was 1%, but what happens when it was 8%? You're still only getting a 3% rent. So government regulation and us as operators have to be smart and not call unneeded attention to us. Again, that's like not being a pig, not being an idiot, not leaving sewage running into your communities. And then two is it is leading and educating them. Again, back to the Scott Roberts formula is bringing out local council people and say, hey, look at our house. Oh, that's a mobile home. Oh my God, that's nice. And so showing them what you can do with the property. So I'd say finding employees, government regulation, all that in that bucket includes tax reassessments. People know who, all of a sudden you get a 80-100% doubling of your taxes. You're like, oh man, what happened to my numbers? So that's the things you don't have a control over. Obviously finding them and finding communities. I know everybody there's like, man, all this stuff's been picked over, and there's only so many. Every pro has a con. The pro is there's only so many parks, and they're not building many, so your competition's limited, and so you should be able to get pretty good occupancy if you take care of your property. And to some, it's like, oh, I should be able to charge what I want, but you still got to factor in what's the general market, where are apartments, but at the same time, not many of these are trading all the time, so it's hard to find them. And then and weather, we can go into stories, but we've been hit by a hurricane. Some people in Oklahoma or other states are like hit by but that's tornadoes, just that's an act of God, and you can't control that.
Yep. I'm curious, do you own any properties within California?
No, I none. And that was something I learned from Ron, that there's this failure to maintain lawsuits here, and then people have made a killing of great property here, but in our formula and the kind of returns we needed to get out of the box is like, stuff was at like a 3 cap and just so hard. It's so competitive. Like we're not going to win this, some bigger operator, a Court and Scott or a Hometown America is gonna beat us out on this. So we and again, all the regulation we've seen and have seen people where they just to put in a rent control to build back your utilities, you got to have all these formulas and go before a board, and it's just and again, unfortunately, I live here because the weather's great, and I'm not right on the mountains, and I go ride my bike. But other than that, the politics have skewed, and I'm not picking sides for it. I mean, but when you go to super majority of one side and nobody's checking you on what you're doing, you get what's happened to California. So
And also, you had mentioned, you have mobile home parks and you have RV parks. Is that correct?
Yeah, we sort of fell into that through hybrids. Like we have one in Florida, beautiful property, and it had 325 mobile home sites, and then 247 RV sites, and then and it was just like, it's just a great asset, and it still is, and we saw, well, these RVs are interesting, and all, now we have maybe 4 or 5, maybe 6 communities that have RVs, and we obviously like and want the long-term stays. We're not equipped for the daily weekends, and you have the water parks, and you have the bands, and it's that's another formula for somebody, and we're just not equipped there. I'm just moving messages so it doesn't end up on your video. So we found to like it. I mean, obviously people know it's got different risks. Is like just as easily as mobile homes are there, and they're tied down, and they're really not mobile. And people will be going, why are you calling them mobile? Sorry, I'm old schoolish, but I don't call them trailer parks, but manufactured home communities or land lease. But the RVs can just get up and go too, so, but if you're in good areas, and again, you look at, okay, why are people here? What are the amenities? We have some that are workforce RVers that come in and they stay for 3-6 months. It's been a good business. They got a lot of similarities and then some other differences you got to navigate.
Yeah, nice.
Does that mean would you look at one that was strictly just an RV park now that you have a little bit of a foot in the game?
You know, we've been talking about that, and absolutely, it's just if you know if it's long-term stays and in a good area, and if you can get the financing, you know, the financing's always tough because it's like, okay, well, how consistent is this income? But if you have a good track record and you can get in, a lot of them now have park models and different cottages and things that yeah, we definitely look at that. It's just when we're picking where, you know, we say now we can be selective when we're picking 1 or 2 deals a year, and it's like, okay, that would be great, but you know, we're not in that state, or we don't know that market, or you know, there's 10 other community, and it doesn't have that barriers to entry that MH has. So it's like, oh yeah, they just built a new RV park over here, and it's big,
Yeah.
you know, Thousand Islands or KOA or somebody, and all our people are going there, and you're like, oh shit, I just went from. So it's got more risk, but again, there's good aspects to it as well.
Yeah, I agree. So, are you besides the RV parks, mobile parks, are you investing in any other assets, or is it strictly just the mobile park, RV park stuff?
You know, we stick to that. We've looked at like
Yep.
a few of our communities have storage units that in front of the come up, and
Yeah.
you know, we've looked at again the all storage and apartments and different stuff, and we're like, why change what we know? Why, you know, why get in trouble over something that we weren't experts at? So as long as we're able to still keep this formula and keep it going, and we haven't found a need to. I mean, there's other good stuff, and people are doing industrial, and we do other little side investments, and to just to get our hands into different stuff. But no, this is our bread and butter, and we sort of stick to it.
Stick with it. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's easy when you're known as the mobile home park person, right? And then everybody just thinks of you as that. So then you
Yeah.
get more deals sent to your way. So it sounds like so you're
Absolutely.
sticking with 150 plus pads. So you must be turning away a lot of deals and have your buy box ready to go then, huh? Oh, it's work time. It's signing
Yeah,
checks.
yeah, but no, you're good. I'm listening to you. No, I mean, we get all of the different same emails and stuff that everybody gets, and we'll get certain brokers that'll be like, hey, this is a Julio, this is an Evergreen deal. We know what markets they're in, and where and how they can get creative. And this seller, the beauty of not having you know, institutional capital or a board. Oh, we got to present this to a board, and they want this, or they got a 5-year window and they want their money out. We don't have any of that. So like if a seller says, well, I want to, I mean, this one deal in North Carolina, this seller wanted seller financing because they didn't want, and they want an installment sale. They didn't want to get the capital gains right now, and they wanted to say, oh, maybe, you know, I want to see what's going to happen with the election and this and that, and then we explained to them they had some expansion land and some lease up, and we were able to come to a fair agreement. We said, well, look, this can only service this call it 10 million in seller finance debt, but they're carrying a $12 million loan, and after year 3, when we have a chance to get some lease up in here, then we'll start servicing the other 2 million, and it was just completely creative, and we just talked about through it, and they get it,
Yeah.
and and so much of it is the trust. We've gone out, met with them, like you said, look them in the eye, let them know, say, hey, here's our references, talk to these other sellers that have carried paper with us or know us in the industry, and you're gonna get, I mean, you know, the only one you're gonna get is somebody, maybe an upset resident. Oh, they said they were gonna do this, and they gave me a $15 rent increase instead of a $10. You know, I mean, those are the kind of people that would be pissed off at us. But industry wise and all that is them knowing, hey, I trust you, and people realize that this deal we just did in Ohio, and our JV partner found it, went out, and they liked him and his wife and their story, and then I went out there and I took my son. He had just graduated college, and we went for the summer. Like, come look at these, so you know what paid for your school, and
Yeah.
and then we had dinner with them, and you know, we told them our story, and we said, you know, we said, Charles, we're not going to come in here and jack up your rents. We're not going to come and rape and pillage. We're, you know, you're going to see, we're going to do new signage, and we're going to bring in new homes, and we're going to add a playground, and he goes, you know what? And I believe that, and I've checked you out, and so having that relationship, having that, and being true to what you say is important. People, you know, you can screw somebody over once, you know, or I backdoored a broker. You know, I've said that in one of my other podcasts, like, you know, a broker brought somebody a deal, and I'm going to backdoor them and cut them down 10 grand. And like that you're going to be last, if not off their list in the future, because they're going to go to other, but you got to take care of and have that, you know, and it starts with knowing and coming from nothing, and knowing, like, struggling to get by. When I started Evergreen, I started with $5,000, and I had you know, maybe 25 grand in a 401k, and I liquidated it, and I said, all right, this is how I'm going to live until I can get this thing going. And knowing how tough it is, you got to know and say, hey, this broker, yeah, they're making money, and it's negotiate something fair, but they may not make money the next 2 years because deals aren't trading. So you can't go and beat everybody down for every nickel. You got to know, hey, this is a relationship, and we all eat, as they say, or, you know. So yeah, that's been the key is keeping that reputation strong.
Yeah, for sure.
And if somebody's just getting into this business, is there something, like, for newbie advice, somebody who wants to either get in as an operator and start hitting the phones and doing all of that, or somebody who wants to get in as an investor? What advice can you give to kind of both those categories of
Okay, no, perfect. So first of all, I'm gonna start with the latter. With an investor, is do your homework. You know, look to see, hey, who am I getting in bed with? Have they done other deals? Follow, you know, LinkedIn. I follow a lot of, there's some great young guys that, you know, so many of them when we talk, and I've been on, like, Andrew Keel's podcast, and Ryan Norris, you know, built something up from nothing, and one of the guys I've JV'd with, you know, when he bought his first park, he moved into the mobile home park, and that's what I told him. I said that was the key. I knew I wanted to be an investor with you and a JV. Is they're not just looking at it from a spreadsheet. Yeah, I went to Yale, and you know, I worked on Wall Street, and it's like, all right, big deal. Okay, so, but do you know what? You know how one of these? Do you know how to? You know what happens when there's a riser breaks in your mobile home park, and it's 30 below? You know, so you want to do your homework to say people that have your aligned goals, and so do your homework. You know, ask the questions. Trust Ronald Reagan, trust but verify, and then just, you know, maybe start small or diversify. You know, look at, you know, not every property, no matter how great you are, is going to always do well, right? You know, right away. So somebody coming in is for one, you're gonna have to be patient. You know, it took me probably a year and a half before I bought my first deal. And you know, to be selective. Don't think you're like, man, I just gotta buy. And it's hard, because I was like, man, I almost need some communities just to get the management fees to pay for me and my staff at the time. And but you don't want to do that. You gotta start by living lean. You know, you're not gonna be driving the Porsche, you know, for many years. Live lean, and just think, all right, how am I going to do this? Some people, I have a couple of JVs that still have a 9 to 5, and they're just like, okay, you know, on the weekends they're driving out to see the property, or so you're gonna have to work. There's no this isn't a get rich quick scheme. It's not the lottery. You know, people will tell you, yeah, I turned this and I did a 5x. There's a shitload of work that went into that. A lot of luck that they got the property and then the right market, and a lot of sweat and tears, and they're not going to tell you all the bad stories that went up to that. Like, oh shit, I just had E. coli in my water, and my third deal that I bought, that I still have now, White Birch Estates, bought it in 2000, 24 years old, and it's 230 sites in upstate New York and Saratoga Springs area. Just just a gem. And you know, when I went in there, the dad, which carried paper, the Abrams, the son thought he was going to give it to him, and the dad was like, "No, you're not ready for this. You're gonna screw this up. I'd rather give you the money from selling it than give you this park." And the son was pissed off, lived in front of the park, and he sabotaged our water. He made a fence, right? You have to go through or by his house, which we now own and made into our office and nice, but you had to go by his house, and he made a fence out of abandoned toilets and just to piss us off. And you see all this stuff, and he would call dealers and people to try to get them to steal homes out of our park and move them other places. I mean, he was sabotaging us, and you're not going to hear all those horror stories.
Yeah.
And you know, he contaminated our water, and the health department, he said, "You have E. coli and you got to go on a boil water." And months earlier, some people had died at a state fair that had E. coli. And I'm just laying in bed thinking, "Oh, fuck, kids are going to get sick. And what the hell?" And so there's a lot of horror stories. So just be prepared that it's not all fun and games. It's got its great aspects, and you learn a lot of stuff, but also, again, but have fun with it, man. When I bought my first property in Syracuse, New York, I went, checked it out. Then I went to learn your market. I went to Syracuse University, went to the Carrier Dome, saw Carmelo Anthony play, and you know, hit some good restaurants, worked on the books in a pub watching European soccer. And so yeah. Enjoy it. Don't but and learn the market. Say, "Oh, okay, here's where the town's growing, and here's where this is, and here's, you know, where are the jobs? Where am I dependent on one factory, or am I dependent on you know?" So it's exciting as hell. You got to be patient. You're going to work hard, and get, when you can be selective of who your money partners are. And I mean, you can have some bad guys that want to squeeze you for everything or give you unrealistic, "Hey, we want our money, we got to give this." And I'm like, okay, then I'm sacrificing your property. I can't bring back new homes in here. I can't repair the roads, and I can't charge the rent you want me to get to with when you're squeezing every juice out of to give it to you. You know, so it's get to know the people. And the good thing is there's some good people out there. Follow them, see them, go visit them at a park if you're ready, if you're serious, or if it's near your area. "Oh, I want to go see you know, then Mario." There's a couple other guys, and they give great stories, hands-on videos, and say, "Hey, let me go meet you at a park, show me." And you'll see, you can only bullshit for so long, and yep. You'll see if, okay, hey, this guy knows what he's doing, or he's serious, or it was 5 o'clock and he wasn't saying, "Okay, I got to go play golf." He's like, he knew he had to stay in there and solve this problem, and he's gonna and align your goals. Don't think if they get just a fee and they're out, that they don't have the same incentive you do as say, "Okay, you're gonna get paid." Like I told you in our formula, we're only going to make that 30% equity if you're making your equity. If it goes to zero, ours goes to zero. Yeah. You know, so make sure your goals align yourselves together, and I'd recommend that for the new guy. Just again, get out of the box and everything they teach you in college and all that. Again, my son went to SMU and great, and then I'm like, okay, those are great in theory, but here's what happens in reality. And you know, and you just got to know and say, okay, hey, how do I do this while properly rewarding yourself? You're taking a shitload of risk, you're doing this, but make sure, because what you do, you're not just doing it one and done. What you do on that first one is going to be what leads to everything else. The glory years are going to come with delivering on the front years. And we've had to, on some of our front years, we couldn't take our distribution because there was only so much. And I'm like, all right, I told these investors we're going to get this amount, and my part, I need to put it back into the park, and did some stuff and deferred, and just like, all right, I'm going to live tight. And then refinance came up, got it all back. No, everybody was fair. and they got their money, and they're like, dude, when's the next deal? And I'm like, well, let us find the right one. And that's the other thing, is don't force a deal just to buy it. It's gotta make sense. The market, the detail of it. Don't get in over your head. Every deal isn't for everyone. Oh, this has 100 rental units, and okay, can I get a rehab crew? How am I going to do this? Or don't make yourself, you can adjust your pro forma, your spreadsheet to fit any number, and give yourself unrealistic. Oh, okay, I'm just gonna jack up my rent increases by $30 more each one, and now look at my returns. But
Yep.
You got to make it realistic, and sometimes you may have to educate your investors. Say, look, this is going to take a bit. My brother, this Ohio deal. My brother had some rentals in Dallas, and sold them in a 1031 exchange, and he wanted to exchange it, and we had to do a tick. And then my brother's, he loves to gamble, and he buys puts and calls, and does all this crazy stuff. So he's like, he calls me Julio. Hey, Julio, so what's the return on it? I'm like Notch. I call him Nacho. His name's Eugene. I'm like, Notch, this gonna be 5% right now. And he's like, fuck, I can get that in the bank. And I'm like, yeah, for this year, but this is where it's gonna go. But you got to be paid. And I had to educate him on and the equity growth, and where this is going to go, and what this property is going to be turned to. And I'm like, and this is going to be here 20, 30. You're going to be handing this to your kids, and it's going to be up here. So sometimes you got to educate these guys and think that this isn't a lottery, it isn't a stock. And then the other thing is educating your investors. And I'm sorry, I ramble on. The other thing is educating your investors on, hey, when you buy a stock, or you buy a REIT, or you buy Tesla, or you buy this, those owners are getting paid too. Okay, you're just like, oh well, I bought that stock, and all I had to do is pay my broker this fee. I'm like, oh, you don't think buying that stock that Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates, they're getting paid out of that, and that's how this thing, where no one's doing it for free, and you don't want them doing it for free, because then they don't give a crap about your money. they want to grow that, so they get their valuation and you get yours. So that's a big chunk of it.
Nice. Oh man, we are approaching an hour here. I appreciate everything No, this is great. I mean, I knew it was going to be an easy conversation, so it's been great. Shared a lot of information. For those who are listening and they want to get in touch with you, potentially work with you, how should they reach out, and what markets are you also in? And we can talk about that.
So we're in the Northeast, the Midwest, and the Southeast. We've been buying and love red states, and again, not non-politically, but that's where the people are going. That's where things are affordable. That's where there's less bureaucracy.
Landlord friendly.
Yeah, business friendly. So we've been buying in red states. Where I can be reached at Julio, Julio, at evergreencommunities.com. So, and that's all one word, Julio at Evergreen Communities, plural.com, Julio at evergreencommunities.com. I'm on LinkedIn. And again, I offer advice to people all the time, and have no problem sharing, because that's how I learned. And so happy to do that. And again, happy with, if you guys say, hey, we got a bunch of people wanting more questions, I'm happy to do another one of these if you want, and dial me down, because I'm OCD, ADD. I'm all over the place. But you can say, hey, Julio, they want to talk about this, and this, and how'd you deal with utilities? I enjoy sharing, only because if we educate everybody and get them operating professionally and with compassionately, a buddy of mine calls it compassionate. He's like, well, what do you think about capitalism? I was like, it's great. He goes, well, we need compassionate capitalism, people. And I'm like, okay, that we already do that. We care about the customer. We're not there to squeeze them and drive them to bankruptcy, because then we're bankrupting ourselves. So all of that, I like to see our industry grow and professionalize, and I think it'll help all of us.
Yeah, and then more municipalities enjoy having these manufactured home communities, mobile home parks, whatever you want to call them.
Yep.
And yeah, so that's 100% spot on. I agree with that. Social capitalism, basically.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And again, it's smart business. It's not
Yep.
it's not being, some people are like, oh, you guys are being weak and all this and survival of the fittest. And I'm like, yeah, but you're eating your customers. So what's the point?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, Julio, again for coming on the show. We do appreciate you sharing everything. And yeah, we
Yeah.
look forward to seeing more of what you're doing, and we'll be in touch. Hopefully do some deals with you down the road.
Yeah. Thank you guys and good luck and anything I can help you guys with, and good luck with the podcast. Appreciate both of you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Take care.